Welcome to Two Deep, Hokies Under the Influence, a Sons of Saturday podcast. I'm your host for the night, Sam Jesse. Pete B, still on vacation in Alaska, by the way. Looks pretty cool. I got my compadres here, longtime friends, Brett Smith, Robert Irby. Fellas, how are we doing?
Happy to be here as always.
Absolutely. I say this every time I think I have both of you on. I'll say it again. I think I have either gotten a text or some level of communication from the two of you for maybe 4 years straight at this point. Yeah. Every day of my life. Like we're reaching like 1,400 consecutive days of some sort of communication between the three of us.
Yeah.
Usually it's about yelling about college football.
For sure. Well, you should see mine and Brett's snap streak. It's pretty good. I'm just kidding. We don't Snapchat. We do poke each other on Facebook though.
You poke each other on Facebook. God,
all other people on MySpace.
Follow each other on SoundCloud.
I'm gonna write on your wall so hard.
But we've been talking Hokies football for a long time, and that's what we're gonna do tonight. Last episode we had with Pete, we previewed the South Carolina game. Really in-depth hour on that. You should go check that out. Check it out on podcast. Check it out on YouTube. I did a national college football preview with the one and only Tyler Budge, who is a complete sicko of college football. Very few people know more college football than he does, so go check that one out as well. Tonight, fellas, we will be previewing Virginia Tech's matchups against the Vanderbilt Commodores, the Old Dominion Monarchs, and the Wofford Terriers. So before we get it started, Robert, can you start us off with cheers?
Absolutely. Cheers to the fact that week 0 is exactly 1 month away. On August 23rd, we will have college football, and that is just an amazing thing. So cheers to that.
Cheers.
Cheers to that.
I'll try to get a good crack in here.
Oh, we're cracking them. Wow.
Was Utah State the first game? Is that right, Sam?
The first kickoff is Farmageddon.
Oh, that's right.
Let's go. What a way to start the year, dude.
That's awesome. A way to start the year. Can't beat it. Which is like an oddly pivotal rivalry game that's being played at noon in Dublin. That's pretty funny. And I would be remiss if, especially with the two metalheads, Brett and I on, if we didn't give a cheers to the late, great Ozzy Osbourne, the godfather of metal, the Prince of Darkness, literally created a genre of music by himself. Cheers to Ozzy.
Went out on his own terms.
Absolutely. Very, very happy he got to do that last concert, which looked amazing. And I'll be doing some. I'll put some Ozzy Osbourne on the playlist for the Peloton ride later tonight for sure. Right. Some Sabbath, some Ozzy, all that fun stuff.
Electric Funeral, absolutely must.
Yeah, absolutely. War Pigs, live, heck yeah. All right, fellas. Speaking of some heavy metal, ground and pound, Vanderbilt just absolutely took it to the Hokies last year. This is the first game that we are going to preview in here. Last season, it was a very tough, very sad, maybe the saddest I've ever been after a Virginia Tech football game. And yes, I'm including the Boston College game in 2007. Overtime loss at the hands of the Commodores in Nashville. The Hokies get them in Blacksburg, week 2, night game, maroon effect. What could go wrong, Brett?
Everything can go wrong, I guess. That's that. But what scares you the most, and we'll get into a little more deeper, is this is a pretty experienced Vanderbilt team coming back with a not as experienced Virginia Tech team coming back with 2 new coordinators.
Yeah.
And there's it's pretty much status quo for Vanderbilt that they're building on, which is very rare for them. So, I think, obviously night game, home field advantage. I would hope some of these players that played against Vanderbilt last year would want a piece of them. But, there's plenty of things to be worried about, which we'll get into.
So let's do some quick housekeeping for the Vanderbilt Commodores coming into this year. As Brett said, they are a very experienced team. They are number 3 in returning production, according to Bill Connolly's S&P Plus. Number 7th overall in offense, number 3 overall in defense. Their over-under win total for the season is 5.5, juiced to the under. So the books have them not making a bowl game. That's kind of surprising here. FPI for Vanderbilt, I'm not even going to bother with because FPI is stupid. S&P Plus for Vanderbilt, 55 in the country for them. Lindy's Preview Magazine has them coming in at 63rd in the country, and Athlon Sports, pretty high on the Commodores, has them coming in at number 40. Robert, this is a team that, for all of the hype and energy and talk around Diego Pavia and Clark Lee's Vanderbilt program and all of that, I feel like they're kind of just expected to be mediocre.
Well, I mean, obviously they took it to us week 1, but they were mediocre, right? And I mean, it was more of the highs are highs and lows are lows, and then the averages in the middle for that reason. I mean, this is a team that lost to Georgia State, right? And that also beat Alabama. So, I mean, yeah, I guess it is kind of that feast or famine team. So if they're bringing everybody back, maybe you expect more of the same. It's kind of that question of, is all returning production good production?
Yeah, how much better do we expect this Vanderbilt program to be? I don't know. They do return a bulk of their defense, which we will get to, but we'll start real quickly here with the offensive side, and it begins and ends with Diego Pavia. And really, it's not as much just Diego Pavia. It's Diego Pavia plus Jerry Kill plus the pistol offense. It was made famous with those Colin Kaepernick Nevada teams in the 2008 to 2010 range. And it is, if you aren't fully familiar with X's and O's for college football, the pistol, it really, really relies on two things. One, not getting beat up the middle and giving time for your quarterback to read what's happening on the line of scrimmage. And number two, the defense missing at least one assignment on the play. One of the 11 players on the defense needs to miss an assignment in order for it to work. If those two things can happen for the offense, it is really, really hard to stop. I heard on the Cover 3 podcast that one of those Nevada teams, I believe it was 2009, had 3 different players rush for 1,000 yards. 3 of them.
That's crazy.
That's crazy. And that's what can happen when you run this style of offense correctly. When it doesn't work out really well and you get maybe beat up over the middle, or everyone's doing their assignments on the outside, you see a Vanderbilt team that didn't score over 30 points since they beat Alabama in early October, not including the bowl game in the rain against Georgia Tech. So they returning production very, very high. They will start a good amount of transfers on offense, including on the offensive line. And they do have 2 new receivers coming in, Trent Hudson from Mississippi State, and then JUCO guy Trey Richardson. Both of them will need to be pretty good this year. But again, guys, Pavia. How scared are you of Diego Pavia just gaming all over the Hokies? Because I think that is like what's going to win and lose the game is, does Diego Pavia have a good game? It was, by QBR standards, his second best game of last year. Does he repeat it this year in Lane Stadium?
Yeah, the one thing I'll say is people didn't know what to expect last year with Pavia and Gary Kill. Virginia Tech got kind of screwed with that. I mean, you could watch the film at New Mexico State and as much as you can, but it's still not the same as when you have a totally different team around them. And I'd probably go on record to say that the Vanderbilt offensive line and skill players were probably better than New Mexico State's. So, I would, it was a better team. And I think, the reason I'm not as scared as maybe some others are and how high they are on Pavia is there's so much film on him last year. And he's a gamer. I mean, he made stuff happen, but they also had some great play calls, some great schemes. And as you said, they had so much success because nobody knew what to expect. And I kind of attribute it to similarly with Kyron Drones with 2023, the back half of the Hokies. Nobody knew what was going to expect from him. Nobody film prepared for him, et cetera, et cetera. And I think that's why he's also makes so much success with Pavia. I fully expect every team that plays Vanderbilt this year to sell out the run almost pretty much the whole game.
Yeah.
And it's going to be up to the defensive backs on every team they play to be able to just hold their coverage. That's pretty much, I think that's going to be what every team does.
And Virginia Tech struggled to do that. I mean, we saw Mansour Delane was getting beat left and right. The linebackers couldn't stay with Eli Stowers. I'm going to add Diego Pavia's game log from last year to the screen. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see that up there. Robert, I'm really, really, it's so Virginia Tech for him to have that stat line against the Hokies where he was 12 of 16, completed 75% of his passes for 190 yards, 2 touchdowns, averaged 12 yards per completion, no interceptions, and he ran the ball very well. His rushing stats are on the screen right now, but take our word for it. Diego Pavia, good at running the football. But you see that second half of the season, you see he went 9 of 22 against Auburn, 13 of 24 against LSU, 8 of 17 against Tennessee. I rewatched their game against South Carolina. That was a game where they got absolutely blown up on the line of scrimmage. South Carolina did their job defensively, and he didn't have a lot of places to throw the ball either. So, Robert, you look at Diego Pavia, it does feel like you just can't get him when he's on his game, and you'll be fine. But if he's on his game,
right. And unfortunately, like I think it's telling. I would assume, at least based on looking at these stat lines, you mentioned that he had his second best QBR against us. I'm assuming he had his best against Alabama.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, and that speaks to ultimately the kid's a gamer, right? And it's that advanced stats nerd versus he got that dog in him meme. You know what I mean? Like, it's at the end of the day, he just shows up when it matters. And so that certainly like gives me pause. I think that he has some personal vendetta against Virginia Tech, I think, just with the comments he made before and after the game. So yeah, I'm afraid of that. But at the same time, I think to Brett's point, and I think to really what these stats showed towards the end of the year, is that the book was kind of out on him towards the end of the year. It ultimately just requires a lot of physicality. You look at the teams that they lost to down the stretch there, South Carolina, LSU, maybe not as much, but Tennessee, like those were extremely physical football teams, especially like 2 of the best defensive lines and LSU. But then otherwise he just wasn't going to win in Baton Rouge. So yeah, I think if Tech can be, they brought in a lot of new faces in the defensive line. If those guys can, kind of wreak havoc up front there, then yeah, maybe it's a different question.
This is his 4th year running this offense. Very, very rare in college football to see something like that. Brett, not a ton of playmakers on the outside for the Fighting Commodores and the Fighting Clark Lees, but they do have a pretty talented tight end, and I'll put his game log up here next. Eli Stowers, a potential first tight end off the board this year. He wasn't very good against the Hokies. He had a couple big receptions. He had a 41-yard reception. That was pretty big. But you did see some games like the Missouri game, like the game against Ball State, which doesn't really count. But, I mean, he was just consistent game after game after game for them down the stretch. He's a little bit scary for a new defensive coordinator in Sam Cephas, right?
Yeah, I think so. But if you look at these stats a little bit, a majority of his yards came in 3 games: Ball State, Georgia State, and Alabama. The Alabama game, I think Nick Saban probably was going to jump through his screen of how badly Kellen DeBoer coached that game and the whole staff. I think that was the worst game Alabama's played in the last 15 years. So I'll give all the credit in the world to Pavia Vanderbilt and still winning that game, but they just they just flat out played the worst game of their lives. But so leading to that, I mean, obviously he's 6'4", 225 pounds. I mean, he is basically, Brock Bowers light, and his name rhymes. Is basically what this guy is. He's quick, he's physical, he's a great blocker. So he kind of has all the tools for a tight end. What I'm worried about is with him, obviously, is I don't know what the Sam Cephas defense really was going to look like. I don't think anybody does, except for Sam Cephas.
You would hope Sam Cephas knows what it's going to look like.
Yeah, except for him. I don't think anybody really knows, and I don't know if he's planning on manning up, a guy like this, or if he's, what his plans are. But I don't really trust a single linebacker on our team right now to be able to cover this guy. To be frankly, I think Kelly Lawson would have been the perfect guy to cover somebody like this and open, somebody that's physical. Kelly Lawson obviously doesn't have the pounds on Eli Stowers, but he's got the length, he's got the athleticism to keep up with him and at least, jam him up. That's my one concern.
I feel like this is a spot where, Tech brought in a shit ton of safeties in the transfer portal, right? And maybe this is a spot where you throw, Isaiah Cash and Tyson Flowers and those guys at Stowers.
He's just
Also
so big.
17 targets in a game is nuts. He had 17 targets against Georgia State.
He's
That's
the safety
half their
valve.
plays.
Yeah,
he's the Zach Ertz to Jaden Daniels for this.
That's a great NFL comp, and
that is.
It's really just they run what the defense gives them. In some games, the defense is going to give you that little flat out pass to the tight end, right? It's going to be on a little play action. Pavia is going to roll out to his right and throw to Eli Stowers. If you close that off, Pavia is going to do something else. You kind of have to pick your poison against this option unless you're able to blow some shit up. And can Virginia Tech do that? I think is the key for defending this Vanderbilt option offense. Are we a little bit, well, let me put it this way. Do we think it is a positive or a negative that Virginia Tech will basically play 3 straight RPO option heavy quarterback run teams to start the season? We'll get to ODU in a little bit.
I mean, that's nightmare fuel. I'm going to be honest.
Yeah, for me, it makes me very uncomfortable. But that's just, unfortunately, if you can't figure out how to guard that in college football in this day and age, you shouldn't be coaching. I think Chris Marv struggled with that a lot for the RPO. I mean, if you really look at it, the offense turned it around last year in the second half, and then Chris Marv couldn't get it done down the stretch. I mean, that's just what happened. We were winning the game with 4 minutes to go. And it's just the RPO with Chris Marv. I think we had so many times like that famous play with CJ McCray. I can't remember, was it against last year? I forgot who it was, where he just absolutely was just watching the quarterback. He just completely just whiffed on his assignment, and the guy went for 65 yards. So I think, I'm hoping that Steve Giskin is instilling something a little more, what's what I'm looking for? Rigid, or I guess safe in a way where I'm thinking, it's not as man on man, hat on hat, as you've heard Pry say, what's doing this, the hat on hat thing. It's a little more, I guess, safe in the terms of, we're trying not to give up explosive plays, which is what the NFL is all about. Do not give up explosive. If you give up explosive plays in the NFL, you're going to be a bad team. So that's what I'm hoping that he's going to do, is limit these explosive plays and these missed assignments.
Yeah, keeping everything in front of you. And I think ultimately, his system is probably going to be a little more complex just because it's coming from the NFL, or at least that's probably his long-term goal. But at the same time, the sign of a good coach is, can you convey that information and ultimately train these players? I mean, some players will never get it, but can you teach them where to be in what they see, how to interpret what they see out there, and I think that was really just the issue with Tech's defenses under Marv. Was like you mentioned, that example with McCray, there were just so many examples where guys, it's almost like they were throwing their hands up. They just didn't know where to go.
I mean, there were instances last year where you couldn't have played the option any worse than some linebackers and defensive ends for Virginia Tech played it last year. That was pretty rough. I think looking at the Vanderbilt Virginia Tech game last year and looking at the Alabama Virginia Tech game, defensively actually looks very, very similar, right? Alabama and Virginia Tech both were kind of blowing up the game in the middle of the line of scrimmage. It was just nobody was doing their assignments, and Pavia knowing how to run that offense, knowing when to pitch, when to keep it, when to hand it off, when to throw, kind of destroyed him for it. And those were his 2 best games. It's not a coincidence that the teams that kind of just didn't really look like they knew what they were doing, those are the teams that Vanderbilt was very good against. All right, let's move to the defensive side of the football for Vanderbilt. They were not a great defense last year, but they were improved, and they bring back everybody. Robert, what do you have on the Commodores on the defensive side of the ball?
Yeah, I mean, like you mentioned, they're bringing almost the entire defense back. I'm pretty sure it's 4 of their top 5 tacklers. They're really, really good at linebacker. They have let me find the kid's name. I apologize. But yes, while I'm looking at that, it is one of those things where it's kind of like what I mentioned earlier. How do you value returning production versus what that production is actually proven to be able to do on the field? right? And this Vanderbilt defense was one of the worst in the SEC. In terms of like getting sacks, they were 14th in sacks. They were, I think, 13th in total yards, 14th in points. And I think the biggest issue that I saw was they led the SEC, or I suppose they were last in the SEC in total passing touchdowns allowed. And so what that tells me is ultimately like the way that you beat them was their secondary wasn't very good. And they gave up a lot of explosive passing plays. Like I specifically remember that play in last year's game where Ollie Jennings, he was the only person within 30 yards of the football and hit that weird dance after he scored the touchdown. It's like they gave up plays like that all the time in terms of like explosive drive rate. They were dead last in the SEC, meaning like of all the SEC defenses, they had the most drives allowed where the offense averaged 7.5 more yards per play. So again, I mean, yeah, like this is a very old team. It's a good team, or it's an old team, but I just don't know if it's good. You look at their defense, probably their best defensive player is a linebacker, Brian Longwell and Nick Rinaldi. I think it is Rinaldi is what I'm thinking of. He can kind of rush the passer too. He was also the leading sack. He led them in tackles and sacks. So very talented player. Can kind of mix it up a little bit. I would imagine that a defensive mind like Clark Lee is going to try and use him in a lot of different ways to try to confuse Kyron. And I don't know. I mean, ultimately, I think that like Kyron's got to be able to hit the deep ball. And if he does, because that's what he struggled with last year, among other things. He's got to see it and he's got to hit it. And if that happens, like, yeah, speedsters like Donovan and Aiden Green out there, Cameron Seldon, like those guys can hit some deep passes. And if that happens, then I think Tech could have a lot of success.
Yeah, something to keep in mind with this Vanderbilt team. Clark Lee acted as their head honcho defensive guy since he's been at Vanderbilt. He will actually be promoting Steve Gregory, who is a former NFL safeties coach, just like CMC Gisopit, promoting him to defensive coordinator. So we'll see how that works out. I wouldn't expect much of a change there. And they do have a bit of turnover on their defensive backs. They are having 2 new safeties. So again, like we talk about this in preseason previews a lot. If a team was bad in an area and they have 2 of those guys leave and they didn't really bring in a ton of transfers or high quality high school guys to replace them, that could be an area of weakness. And you could really see that on paper before the season even starts. So I think you're right, Robert. Like the big plays will be there. Kyron Drones, he missed a few in the matchup last year. And I think that ultimately was one of the many things that cost Virginia Tech on that fateful Saturday in Nashville. If they can hit those in this game, you're going to feel pretty good. How much of an impact do you think this game being at night in Lane Stadium will make to the final score?
I think it's a bigger factor than people are taking into account. I know the home record hasn't been great. I mean, for lack of a better term, or a more colorful term, I could say. But, I think it'll have a big factor. I think all the Hokies that were in Nashville last year are going to be thinking about it. I think, always Tech has had pretty good success on the first home game relatively. It's just after that. It's just November has been absolutely horrible except for UVA. So if you look at the first game for Virginia Tech over the last several years at home, it's been pretty good outside of Ohio State. I mean, they've usually
been fair enough.
Yeah. So
fair enough.
So, so I feel pretty good about that aspect. Pavia can say what he wants, but that'll probably be the toughest place I think he's played in terms of atmosphere outside of LSU, in my opinion.
I think it is important to note that 3 of Pavia's best games last year, all at home, struggled a little bit on the road. Will be interesting to see how the Commodores handle the environment in Blacksburg. Do we have a prediction for this game, fellas, as we wrap it up? I think this is the game that I said it on my season when we did the biggest games with Dan from Tales of the Terror Dome. I had this as my number one. Like, you absolutely cannot lose to Vanderbilt at home, and it cannot happen. So I think they're going to come out with that mentality. But what do you guys think?
Yeah, I think if I had to pick a score right now, I would say 24-20 Virginia Tech. But I would say that cautiously, and I would also say that if Virginia Tech somehow beats South Carolina, we are absolutely losing to Vanderbilt. That's just that. Like, we're not going 2-0 against the SEC. I'm sorry. That has Shane Carden flexing his state of North Carolina tattoo on his bicep to the student section from ECU the week after we beat Ohio State. Like, we're not, that's not happening.
Yeah, I tend to agree with Irby here. I think I'm going to do a betting prop out here. I think the under in this game is definitely going to be the safe bet.
Really?
Unless it's, I think it's going to be. Virginia Tech went deep in the running back room of the transfer portal. This is the deepest running back room Virginia Tech has had since like 2005. So it's like, if you really think about it, I think, probably 2010. That's true.
Josh Oglesby is your fourth string,
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. So, I tend to think, people are thinking, run and gun with Montgomery. I think we're going to run the football a lot more than you think. And I think that's Pry's philosophy as well. I think the reason we didn't the last 2 years, and I think not running the ball, we didn't run the ball enough against Vanderbilt last year, what cost us a lot. I think we tried to put a square peg in a round hole with trying to turn Kyron into this, drop back passer, which he's not. And then he got hurt, and so he couldn't run the ball. So I think you're going to see a lot of quick runs, a lot of reads. And I think it's just going to be a time of possession battle. So I think 24-20 is probably a pretty safe bet with the Hokies. And I think it could be less than that. I'm going to be honest. I think it's going to be, and I think this is a pretty good Vanderbilt defense coming back. So I think it's going to be tough to really, I think it's just going to be a knockout drag out at home. Similar to like the UNC game in 2021, 17-10, whatever that was.
Yeah, I think you guys are probably right, probably on the money. I do think there will be some big play opportunities for the Hokies in this game.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I'm not saying there's not.
I do also think on the flip side, there could be some of those for Vanderbilt if the Hokies aren't totally ready for this game. And like you said, it'll be on a short week. What are the emotions of that South Carolina game, win, loss, or draw? How does that impact this game? We're not going to know that until, the Monday morning after that game against South Carolina. I do feel confident in because this is a night game in Lane. I do feel confident in the Hokies winning this game. I don't think Vanderbilt is some amazing team, and I think Virginia Tech played one of the worst halves of Virginia Tech football I have ever seen and lost that game in overtime with a hurt quarterback. So I think the Hokies win this one. If I had to handicap it, I'm going to say something like 31-23, 31-20, something like that. I'm going to pump the brakes on this Vanderbilt offense. I mean, they only scored 24 points against Ball State. They only scored 17 against Auburn, a touchdown against South Carolina, 17 against LSU, 23 against Tennessee. Like, those are good defenses and those are good teams, but this is not a score 30-plus team. And I think Virginia Tech will be able to hit enough long plays.
It's death by 1,000 cuts, and they just had the ball for 9 minutes.
Yep.
Absolutely. It's a modern version of the triple option, essentially. But no, I do appreciate your point, Brett, about like the running game. And I think Tech in general, I think Tech's going to try to run the ball early in the season because, again, you bring in 3 veteran type running backs. You've revamped this offensive line. Kyron is obviously a very good runner. Whereas if you look at the passing game, like a lot of youth at receiver, you only bring in 1 really wide receiver transfer and Donovan Green. Like, I think it's one of those things where they're just going to rely on Terrion Stewart and Bennett and Kyron in that type of run game and then just kind of establish the run over the course of really maybe the whole month of September.
Yeah,
so
I really think the philosophy is going to be not to get too off topic. They're just going to keep swapping running backs and just try to beat you to death. I mean, that's the type of running backs we brought in. And I don't know why else you would do that if that's not going to be your philosophy.
It will definitely be one of the storylines of the season for Virginia Tech. What direction does this offense go under new offensive coordinator Phil Montgomery, known as a quarterbacks guy, but transfer portaled like a running backs guy? All right, we're going to do our quick. We wanted to spend most of the time here on Vanderbilt because that's obviously the bigger of the three games. So let's do a quick beer break and an ad break. As always, the Two Deep podcast is brought to you by our friends in Virginia Company, Roback, Crave Activity. Roback, you can use code 2DEEPVT. That's TWODEEPVT for 20% off your first order. If you've already used that promo code, just sign up with a new email. It's free. Any email works, and you get 20% off. It is time to get those game day polos. Brett, you are rocking one right now. I don't have my glasses on, so I can't see which one it is, but I believe that's the newer one.
It's the newer one with like all the different. It's got like the TV logo, the Hokie bird, the Virginia, this guy.
Yeah, awesome.
This is my favorite one they've put out.
It's a good one. It's great for game day. It's great for golf, Irby, sweatshirts as well, women's gear, all of it.
Yeah, I got a new one for Father's Day about a month ago, and it's as a Charlotte resident, it's the Mint City, so it's the Charlotte one that they did, and it's so cool. It's like that Carolina blue with hints of that mint green, and it's got like representation of all the different neighborhoods in Charlotte. It's got like person kayaking for the Whitewater Center. It's got Hornets. It's got Panthers on it. My favorite detail of it is it has Roback written in the Bojangles font because Bojangles was started in Charlotte. So yeah, I mean, there's plenty of cool designs for their shirts like that, but that's my favorite so far.
More than just college designs at Roback. Again, that's code 2DVT for 20% off your first order at roback.com. Robert, I need to know, what are you drinking tonight?
Well, I already finished it, but it was the Sierra Nevada Tropical Little Thing IPA. Went ahead and got that Hazy Little Thing variety pack. Can't go wrong with it. They're good, not great IPAs, but they're good for the summer. And the tropical one was, I've been trying to find, I'm not sure exactly what fruits are in it. I think it's a little more citrusy than the hazy. But
like a little more lemon lime action going on.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I feel like Sierra Nevada, like those, it's like when somebody's like, name an IPA, Sierra Nevada hazy. Like that's like the first one people say, like, it's like, that's like the one of the oldest in the book.
Yeah, no, I think if you like just took a blood sample of every person in the state of North Carolina, half of the people would have either the Sierra Nevada Hazy Little Thing or the Wicked Weed Pernicious just flowing through their blood.
Those are two classics in the Mid-Atlantic. I am drinking, this is my fourth of the final of the Sam Adams 12-pack, 4 different each. This is the American Light. This is
great one.
It tastes like ass, dude. It is
I like light beer, so
this tastes like a beer from sophomore year of college. It is meant to be like that. It is American Light Ale. It tastes like absolute nothing. It's only 7 IBUs, only 4.2% alcohol. I'm not a fan of it. This is a drinking game beer though, so take it as you will. I was on my 10-year high school reunion this weekend in Topsail, North Carolina. So, which is why I'm probably not going to go any more than 4.2% tonight. My body needs a little break. Playing some Stack Cup, playing some Pong, hockey, whatever drinking game you want. This is the beer that you just like pour in the middle for the Losers Cup. Like that's this beer. And you just need to accept that when you just need to accept that when you crack it open.
See, like I envision that beer. It's the first home game for Blacksburg. It's hotter than hell on that pavement. That's the beer I'm going to when it's free, nice and cold.
It's not for me, dog. More for you though. More for you.
Yeah, no, I know.
All right, so let's dive in to our next team, the local team from where I'm at, the Old Dominion Monarchs. They will come to Blacksburg, finally not having to play in Norfolk. Maybe don't have to play in Norfolk ever again. Old Dominion, some quick rundown on the Monarchs. Their over-under is also 5.5. And Robert, I wasn't able to see the line today. Was that juiced over, under? Did you take side of that? We'll get that.
Give me
checked.
1 second. I'll pull it up.
Yeah, so S&P Plus for the Monarchs, 103rd in the country. Lindy's also has them at 103rd in the country, and Athlon Sports has them at number 95 in the country. According to Bill Connolly, they are 89th in the country in returning production, number 97 on offense, number 69 on defense. This is trauma bonding is a powerful thing in college football, and this matchup is like it is like a bad head cold. It keeps coming back. They are playing this game only a day away from where they played this game last year. This matchup just will not leave Virginia Tech alone, and it is so scary every time. I do, however, feel like Virginia Tech clearly has the talent advantage in this matchup, and it's in Blacksburg where the Hokies have been able to handle Old Dominion pretty well during this series history.
Yeah, and they have juiced. They've juiced the under. So the expectation right now is that they will make a bowl game. But I don't know if that makes us more confident.
I don't know if that does anything for me, Brett. Are you more scared of the Old Dominion Monarchs or Diego Pavia? Which one has given you more trauma?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
I need to go ask my shrink that question, I guess.
We're gonna use let's use our I feel statements.
Yeah, check the notes.
I'm gonna say honestly, the first ODU loss was like so shocking I couldn't believe it. The second one, this is gonna sound really bad, didn't surprise me because just of being prize first year, first time back there. Like I felt that coming. The Vanderbilt game, I thought we were going to win no problem. And that guy just absolutely danced on us. And going to Nashville, knowing like people that were there, like Sam, my parents, and what they told me after, I probably would have been in prison if I was there just for how people were treated leaving that game. So it's probably a good thing I didn't go. So I'm going to say probably Diego Pavia. But
yeah,
but they're both pretty bad.
Something quick that I really like to do preseason on the Athlon Sports Magazine puts out an opposing assistant coach will do an anonymous report on the Monarchs, and I'll pull out some sentences from that report. Quote, put these guys down as a maybe. Don't really know what I'm supposed to do with that information. Yeah. As a maybe a dark horse, maybe not. I don't know. They're picked right in the middle of the Sun Belt.
Maybe they're coming to my friend's wedding. I don't know.
I mean, maybe. Quote, that offense is really the identity of the program, and if they can catch up on defense, they can break through. They're a bold team who could jump out and surprise some folks. Last year, they lost 6 one-score games. 6. Sound familiar? They lost 6 one-score games last year. They do return a lot on defense. I think S&P Plus might be a little bit thrown off because Jason Henderson is still somehow playing college football, which is just shocking. So he will return. He did not play last year. Neither did Old Dominion's starting quarterback, Colton Joseph, a.k.a. Cowboy Colt. He appeared in the game against Virginia Tech, but wasn't really the starter, didn't really do much. They were kind of a mess on offense, but offense is the identity of Ricky Ronnie and this program. Brett, talk a little bit about the Monarchs. Last year, I felt like the Hokies handled them pretty easily. It got a little bit hairy there late in the second quarter, but for the most part, I think the Hokies were in control for that game.
Yeah, and also I think it could happen again this year. The vibes were still not great after that Vanderbilt game going down there.
Mm-hmm.
So I was not, I think the team was pretty deflated and they still were able to handle business. So, and my theory is if we beat Vanderbilt, I feel like this team could pretty much, I think they could handle it pretty well. I think the quarterback situation is pretty dire. Colton Joseph, Cowboy Colt is his nickname, apparently. I don't know where he's I don't know where he's from.
He's from California. He's like a SoCal kid.
He's like I was gonna say is he like Josh Allen?
Like a soy cowboy? No, thank you.
Yeah, so
Oh, disgusting.
That's good. But the transfer portal really hurts teams like this for the most part, and I think it really did with them. especially on the offensive side of the ball. Jason Henderson, starting to doubt that this guy has as many tackles as they're saying. I think their stat guy is really juicing this guy.
It is a fun tinfoil hat college football.
ATK gate, baby.
Yeah, he's. I think they got him on payroll somehow, or Jason Henderson's got his whatever NIL, maybe Chick's Oyster Bar NIL deal he's got down there.
Same guy who pulled the breaker on the elevator.
Yeah. So, I think I do think this might be a better team than last year.
I would agree there.
Yeah. I think they might be better, but like kind of what the anonymous quote said. It's all going to come down to the offense and the quarterback play. That's pretty much what the difference was in our game last year. Hayden Wolf partially injured, Colton Joseph partially injured. They couldn't figure it out, and that's kind of why we won the game. They should have beat South Carolina. They didn't fumble the ball on like the 30-yard line. All they do is score a field goal to win the game. So they absolutely screwed the pooch on that one. So, yeah, I mean, I haven't done a ton of background on ODU, but not just because I feel like we play the same team every year. It just depends what team what tech team shows up. They've pretty much been since Ricky Ronnie's been there. It's been the same team in my eyes. So
yeah, you mentioned transfer portal really hurt this team, and it has. And this is not a program that is recruited well. In fact, they are. I don't mean this in hyperbole. They're one of the worst recruiting programs in the country in FBS football, which is shocking compared to where they're located. But they don't really get any players from that area of Virginia or Virginia at all. They're very heavy in JUCO. This is a very heavy JUCO team. They brought in 12 JUCO players in this recruiting class. 4 of them are wide receivers. They're all schemed. They run this really wide set offense. The wide receivers will be way out towards the sidelines, and they try to spread you out and make guys miss an open field, and that's how they work. Sometimes it works really well, sometimes it doesn't. I think they play very hard as a team. I don't think they're very talented, and they have to make up for that talent pretty much every game that they play. Colton Joseph, though, he really came on towards the end of last season. He is a run-first quarterback. He actually had 3 games last year where he had more rushes than pass attempts. So that's what you're dealing with here with Colton Joseph, although he can pass pretty well. 66.4 QBR last year. That was 5th in the Sun Belt and 50th overall. So slightly above average quarterback. I mean, this guy isn't a world beater, but if he's on his game and your defense isn't, this guy can make you pay. The Monarchs also returned 5 seniors on the offensive line, so they should have some improvement there. Also a transfer portal, former Virginia Tech running back Bryce Duke had a big run against the Hokies last year, was kind of in line for their starting role this year. He is now like the 4th string at Utah.
I think they brought him on as a kick returner. I think they literally didn't have a kick returner, and so that's my understanding.
Yeah.
So that's why. By the way, Grant Wilson's what I meant, not Hayden Wolf. Hayden Wolf was 2 years ago.
Hayden Wolf. Yeah. Then he went to Western Michigan.
Yeah. Had a pretty good year there. But I meant Grant Wilson. That's who they kept flip-flopping in the game.
Yeah, Grant Wilson was the one who kept running those, like, he'd run the zone read and absolutely nobody would stay home with him. And he'd run like a 6-second 40.
I mean, he threw up those duck jump balls to Ollie Jennings, and it worked in that game.
That too.
It is wild. Irby, when you look at this ODU team, again, like if you were to rank teams based on like high level talent, they're pretty far down the list. Yeah. But the scheme, the development, Virginia Tech didn't see their best defensive player or their best offensive player last year. I went into previewing this, not scared at all about ODU, thinking this game could be a blowout. Now I'm looking at this. I think it might be pretty similar, if not closer game than last year.
Yeah. And I think, like you mentioned, the scheme, and I think, I think Ricky Ronnie has built this offense about as well as he can to fit the scheme. Kind of the key of that wide set formation too is not only does it, spread everybody out in the passing game, but it also benefits your run game significantly. Because ultimately, like you've basically taken the secondary out of play for most run plays because they're so far away from the ball at the snap. And so it requires a lot of discipline from your front 7, front 6, depending on, how many people you keep in the middle there. And if you have a good running back and a good running quarterback, like, yeah, I mean, if you're head's not on a swivel, they can gain yards really quick. And so, this is kind of, again, it's one of those things. Tech brought in a lot of new faces on the defensive line, probably some new faces at linebacker too. You have Woodson and Keller, but other than that, there's going to be some transfers and some freshmen rotating in there. And if Tech is not disciplined, then this can get real spooky, I think.
That's probably the best word to describe this matchup, spooky. Like, it's not really scary. You're going to be fine, but you got to, like, Virginia Tech has to come ready to play in this game. They absolutely have to come ready to play. One thing, we have Colton Joseph's stats from last year, his game log up on the screen. If you're watching on YouTube, you see some really good performances. I mean, that game against Georgia Southern, he was really good, over 300 yards. The game against App State, he was really good, over 330 yards passing. He was sacked 5 times in that game. He was also sacked 5 times in a game against James Madison, where he played horrific, but somehow ODU kept that game close by 3 points. And this is what we talk about with Ricky Ronnie every single year. 1-score games, almost over 76%. I looked it up. I didn't get the right number. I just put about 76% of their Sun Belt games under Ricky Ronnie have been 1-score games.
Wow.
That ODU Marshall game was crazy last year.
Yeah.
I mean, they find a way to, they're a pest for everybody in the best way. That's a compliment. Like, they are pesky, a thorn in the side of every team they play, no matter if you're South Carolina and Virginia Tech, or if you're Georgia Southern and Texas State. Like, it's going to be a tough, close game. I think it is for Virginia Tech all about just coming ready to play. If they come to play like they did last year, it won't be a problem. And we'll get some backups in and we'll put up some stats and it'll be great. If you don't come ready to play, spooky hours.
Yeah. Halloween comes a month early.
What has the game time for this one had been announced yet? I don't believe so. I might be missing that though.
Couldn't tell you.
I mean, it's gosh, man, this kid can run. This Colton Joseph kid can run. They don't have a lot of weapons, and again,
it's night game ACC network, 7 p.m.
All right, easy dub. Never mind. Never mind.
Yeah, I forgot. They've already, ACC network, aka the Inner Sandman Merchants, have already given us their ACC network night game 2 weeks in a row.
Okay, never mind.
Because Vanderbilt is the same schedule.
Yeah, we're good. No problem.
Easy.
No problem. I will say this, and we have good friends of the podcast, the Monarchists, who cover ODU exceptionally. Like, they are very, very good. So if you're into ODU football, check them out, the Monarchists. I have family went to ODU. They're local here. I'm about 15 minutes away from their stadium. Dude, I don't know what the hell they're doing with the football program. They're not bringing in talent. They're losing transfers left and right. They are perpetually a 5 to 7 win team. I'm not saying Ricky Ronnie is on the hot seat, but I would not be surprised if Ricky Ronnie takes an offensive coordinator job next year.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. They're in a tough conference now, though. I mean, like, when they joined the Sun Belt, it's like, oh, they might be able to make some noise eventually. Not anymore. Oh. That's a tough conference now to be bet like with teams of similar player pools that they're pulling from.
Mm-hmm.
So it's it's not gonna be. I don't think it's gonna be easy for anybody to go in there and do much.
Yeah, I mean,
Liberty has hurt them big time in terms of players in Virginia.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, and I would say JMU as well as a team that.
Yeah, JMU's that them going division FBS hurt them as well.
Yeah,
honestly, ECU, like, I feel like they're going after a lot of the same, like, coastal area kids. Like, they're just kind of surrounded a little bit.
I mean, this team, I'm looking at the recruiting class from last year, and I see one. Oh my goodness, one player in their 2025 recruiting class is from the state of Virginia.
Jeez.
So yeah. That's where they're at right now as a program. I don't think that makes them any less scary this September, but ODU, I don't hasn't taken off the way that some people thought a program in the 757 would. for sure. Any other thoughts on the Old Dominion Monarchs before we get to prediction?
No, we can go ahead and do prediction if you'd like.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I'm gonna.
You
Yeah, you can go first. You got it. You got it.
I'm thinking this is going to be similar score last year's 37-17. I'm thinking probably like 35-14. Like I think it's going to be right there. I think it's going to be maybe like a one-score game at half and then pull away at the end. Just enough to make us think about it.
Kind of like that first the 2023 ODU game where we were up like a field goal at halftime and won by 20.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I actually put a pin in that.
Okay.
Robert, your prediction, but put a pin.
I'm gonna go a little lower scoring. I think that I don't know. I just don't see much from this ODU offense. I mean, that honestly they only scored 17 last year because of a garbage time Bryce Duke run. And then Tech's offense, I can see kind of not putting the car in neutral per se, but I think coming off of playing two SEC opponents, you're going to be pretty gassed, pretty banged up, I would imagine. So I think that the game plan will be pretty simple. So I'm gonna say 27-10.
Yeah, I like that too.
I'm gonna go ahead with 38-20. I think Colton Joseph is able to get them a little bit. My big prediction for this game, my overly specific prediction for this game is Tucker Holloway. Punt return touchdown.
Let's go.
He was about 5 yards away. And the last time that he played Old Dominion a couple of years ago in Blacksburg, I think he gets one, takes it to the house in this game. And that's what blows the doors open in it. So Tucker, give me that touchdown, baby. Give me that touchdown. All right. Oh,
no, go ahead.
No, I don't have anything else. I'm ready to move on.
No, this is going back to the first two games, going back to Vanderbilt. The special teams for Tech will be a massive, massive, massive piece to be able to win those games. We have a great kicker. I mean, a fantastic kicker. And somehow he's a junior. I thought he was a senior. And then Tucker Holloway being back. And I think Stu Holt somehow kind of figured it out last year. The year before, 2023, was really bad, except for Tucker Holloway. Last year, it seemed like he kind of got it figured out a little bit. He was able to get Jalen Lane, who's also very fast, but not a punt returner, into a lot of space. The fake field goal, obviously, against Miami, we don't need to go into that anymore. Not his fault, I don't think. I think, actually, Park Clements makes that block. Yeah, we get that play.
Number 70 whiffed.
So I think Stu Holt, a lot rides on him these first few games.
I'm curious to see what our punter looks like because I know we've got a new name there, but
he's really bad in the new video game. I don't think he's that bad in real life.
Really bad in the video game, not that bad in real life.
Oh, yeah, you got to put John Love at punter for sure.
There's 35,000 kids who go to Virginia Tech. Somebody's got to be able to kick something, right?
He's a big dude. Kid. He's 6'2", 220. I looked at it earlier. Our punter. He's huge.
He's got big calves, man.
I know. All right. My prediction for this game, I do think the Hokies take care of business, but again, have to come ready to play. All righty. Let's move on to our third matchup against the Wofford Terriers. The Hokies are hosting an FCS team. This is the second time that they've hosted Wofford in the last few years. It was an underwhelming yet comfortable victory the first time the Hokies played the Terriers in Blacksburg. That was a Wofford team that didn't score a touchdown all year until they played Virginia Tech in Blacksburg. But this Wofford team, guys, I did as much digging as I could, and I got to be honest, I didn't find much. It is really tough to find reviews for an FCS team. The biggest thing I have, if you want to do a big picture, Lindy's has them at 7th in the Southern Conference, only ahead of the Citadel and Virginia Military. So that's
the worst non-military school in their conference.
In the Southern Conference, yes. A fun connection for this game, Sam Siefkes, former defensive coordinator at Wofford. So cool connection there. This just feels like it's going to be like an 11 a.m. kickoff. It's going to be kind of hot. Hokies just need to stay healthy, right? That's it. Stay healthy, get a W, move on, right?
Yeah, that's always the goal against these games. We haven't been able to do it one time just because of how it's been. Just would love to get some guys some burn that aren't starters. We haven't been able to do it. It seems like in a decade. It seems like we haven't. It seems like not even Pry or Fuente, even like the back half of Beamer. I just feel like we can't get these young guys any burn ever, and that's always my goal with these games. That's a big dude. So
it is a big dude. So on the screen right now, I have the stats for what we suspect to be the Wofford starting quarterback for next year, Amari Odom, 6'5", 205 from Inglewood, California. He started for them as a redshirt freshman last year. Not bad stats. However, I would point out that the best FCS team he played last year was Mercer, I believe. And in that game, he was 9 of 22, 0 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, -4 rushing yards. He's not much of a runner. He's a pocket passer. From what I saw from this guy, it is work in progress, but does have some tools. So do have
Look
a little
at South
bit.
Carolina stats, though. That's really interesting.
Yeah, that is. I mean, he had 15 of 28, 215 yards in a tutty, no interceptions. I mean, that's something. They were South Carolina's cupcake week game last year, last November. I'm looking up some of the preseason Southern Conference all-conference teams. Nobody on the first team all-conference, but second team all-conference on offense. Offensive lineman Quincy Hughes and wide receiver Isaiah Scott. So he does seem to have at least one playmaker on the outside. Defensive line, 2 players on the second team all-conference defensive line, and Brandon Mena and Marion Smokes, which is a sick name. They also have defensive back Maximus Pulley.
They have some crazy names. I was looking at their roster earlier.
So they got some cool names. Again, they are picked 7th in the Southern Conference coaches poll, and it's a pretty big drop between number 6 Furman and number 7 Wofford. So, and this is not Virginia Tech playing, that James Madison team, or when Rhode Island came to Virginia Tech and Tech played Rhode Island, or even when Richmond came to Virginia Tech and Tech played Richmond. Like, this is one of the lower end FCS teams.
That Richmond game might be the most unhappy I've ever been in.
Knox Gatum, what a throw.
Okay, here's one interesting player they have. They have a transfer receiver. It might be the only former Power 5 player they have, but he was a transfer from South Carolina, wide receiver CJ Adams. Played 2 years at South Carolina, did not see the field. Was a 3-star in high school. Interesting nugget, though, had quite a few Power 5 offers, including from Virginia Tech. And 247 even listed his primary recruiter as Fontel Mines. So little familiarity there. And apparently somebody the staff kind of liked. So maybe they don't all suck.
They definitely don't. I did leave out somebody on the first team all defense, CJ Coombs. Another cool name. Defensive back on the first team. So they do seem to have a little bit happening at the defensive backfield, a little bit on the defensive line, and a playmaker outside, and a quarterback that has some size and had some good games last year. We'll see. But again, this is a game where Virginia Tech, you are looking to get a big lead early, build some depth, put in the backups. It is something that Virginia Tech has not been able to do since the end of the Beamer era. And you gotta do it at some point, right? We can't have Kyron Drones out there taking hits against Wofford.
Just gotta get some burn from the young guys. Like
I said,
it's not even.
Gotta see AJ Brand or Keldon Ryan. Got to.
If you could pick one player on Virginia Tech who might pop off in this game as a backup, who is it? I have mine.
You go first, Brett. I need to think more about this because you reminded me that my choice, Jeff Overton's probably out for the year. So
yeah,
Jeff Overton will not be playing in this game.
Yeah. Backup, I think it's going to be Brody Adams. He's going to put some burn anyway, I think, this year, but I think he'll be playing a lot in a game like this.
I like a good call. I'm gonna go Bennett at running back. My specific text was 127 all-purpose yards and 2 touchdowns. Book it.
I'll go with the other 4-star that we acquired, and Snook Peterkin, part-time freshman, also part-time basketball player. Apparently, he's on the roster.
Yes.
So, really, really talented, athletic kid from North Carolina. So, sure.
Will be a game that it's interesting to see if Virginia Tech tries to. I don't want to say run up the score in an unsportsmanlike fashion, but do they run the clock out or do they try to score? Right. And I feel like the Fuente teams just tried to run the clock out. Pry
hasn't had a chance.
Hasn't had much of a chance, but we've seen him put up some bigger numbers in some of these games. So we'll see what happens this year. Will be interesting, and one the Hokies should certainly take care of. First 4 games of the season, 2-2, the absolute floor. Like we don't see 1-3.
No.
Okay.
I was actually about to propose the question. What do you guys think the record is post week 4?
I think it's 3-1.
I can't believe I'm agreeing with that, but yes.
Yeah. I think you win the 3 at home. Mm-hmm. And that's a good start.
That's a great start.
It's a good start.
You do.
I mean, that's got to be the goal, right?
Yeah. I mean, the goal is to win every game, but
sure. But
if you go 3-1 3 times during the season, you end up 9-3.
I'll say if we go 3-1, but we lose South Carolina by like 40, I'm still not going to feel that good.
That's
true. That game could set a tone for the next 5 or 6 weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, if we go 3-1, lose South Carolina by like a field goal, I'll be like, we're right there.
Well, what's the thing that you need to see from fall camp to feel like Virginia Tech is like 100% 3-1 is the floor? Like we're going to win one of those games against Vandy or South Carolina. What do you need to see?
I need to see. I just want to see as much as we can how Kyron Drones looks. A, is he healthy? And B, if so, how does it look like he's grasping the offense? Because I think, I've been harping on this a lot in our group chats and things, but I really think an underrated storyline here is that he has missed most of the time with his injury while they're installing this new offense. And so that does make me a little nervous of his ability to. I don't want him to have to be cramming to try to figure that out. And that's not to say anything about his abilities. That's just a really tall task. So I'm curious if he can run the offense well, or are we going to go into South Carolina with a really dumbed down version of it?
Yeah, I think my point kind of goes along with this, and I think Price hinted at it, and Philip Montgomery kind of flat out said it when he was hired. I think we need to work on playing to the offense, specifically their strengths. I think last year we tried to be something that we weren't, which was a kind of a not really high flying offense, but I think we tried to turn something into which we weren't. And I think, like I pointed out earlier, I think bringing these 3 running backs in, knowing Kyron's a good runner, having the athletes on the outside to just get in space, while they're not experienced, but they're really good athletes, I think it's showing me that's like, hey, we're just going to be what we are, what we have, and we're going to try to be really good at it. And I think that's what I want to see is just play to the team's strengths. Kyron does not need to be dropping back 20 times a game. I just really don't think he does.
Yeah.
Like full drop back. And that's what I think Bowen tried to do last year. And then he couldn't run. So then that was dead.
It felt like we were almost like trying to be Texas. I felt like.
We were trying to be.
Yeah, like Kyron's throwing the ball like 30 times a game, and a lot of it was like those quicker kind of passes or those quick dropbacks, 1, 2, 3 throw, and it's just like that just wasn't. We didn't have the personnel for that.
That's not what was successful at the back half of 2023.
No,
so that's what confused me.
Well, for me, I think it's the offensive line. You bring in Matt Moore, you bring in some transfers. One of, if not the best player on the team, is Tomas Rimac. So I really want to see this offensive line look good in fall camp, because I know the defensive line is going to look pretty good. And I would say of all 4 of these teams, one of, if not the biggest strength of them is the defensive front 7. I think for sure that's the strength of Old Dominion, and it looks like Wofford, if they have a couple good defensive linemen and some good DBs, but South Carolina's, they lost a lot of guys, but they replaced them with pretty good players. That's going to be a tough task. Vanderbilt, experienced deep defensive front seven. Old Dominion, their best two players are linebackers, I would say. Those two linebackers, and Henderson and Noah something. I know his name, but not off the top of my head. I need to see an offensive line that looks like big-time football. Last year, had some good moments. He had some really, really bad moments. For me, it's consistently good, consistently looking like big boy football. I think if I see that, I feel really good about 3-1. Anything else? Oh, yeah.
No dorks. Shut up, Pete.
Yeah. Yeah, no dorks. That's it. That'll wrap it up for these three. Pete will be back from his vacation in Alaska, which looks sick. And hopefully he's been trying some cool beers. We've gotten some pictures from him. We will be back previewing the rest of the games. ACC Media Days, a ton of content from Billy Ray and Willie T. They are there in Charlotte covering that. We're going to have a bunch of stuff on the website. I'm getting all those guys set up. It is going to be a really fun August and fall. It's on Saturday.com. So come check out all of that. Everything we have on YouTube. Fellas, anything else we want to plug before we sign off tonight? No. Nope.
Whitley's Peanuts.
Whitley's Peanuts. Sure. Delicious. The what are they? The Krabby Chesapeake crab, whatever.
Yeah, Krabby Chesapeake.
Krabby Chesapeake.
Don't know that guy, but they're pretty good.
They're pretty darn good. So if you get your hands on some Whitley Peanuts, get those. That'll do it for us on the 2 Deep podcast. We'll see you next week. And as always, go Hokies.
Go Hokies.